Heathens. Hopefully you've watched the Genesis 6 video where I've read everything to you to make sure that you understand it all. But now let's make sure we go through this again. For those of you who like to cheat and do things backwards. That's cool. Whatever you want to do. Bottom line, Noah builds a boat. It's 450 feet long. It is 75 feet wide. It is 45 feet tall. It is built in 3 stories. It is made completely and totally out of wood. The largest ships that man has built on record is 300 feet, and they sucked, even with iron strappings used to hold it together, to which Noah would not have had use of, or would not have had access to. And now he has to put every living thing on this here boat, as well as food for these animals, and survive as God floods the earth. Not to mention the giants. I ain't going to get back into all that. Alright, so let's talk about what exactly did it mean. He talked about after their kind and of every sort. Are you talking about species? Or are you talking about genus? Remember, there are 2 basic philosophies that believers subscribe to. Number 1, of every kind, that limits it down to a reasonable amount of species that Noah would have had to bring on. And no, he put 2 of everything. This ship is 450 feet long, 75 foot wide, 45 foot tall. That is a total of 1.5 million cubic feet. How many species are there? Now, we're not talking about subspecies here, okay? We're talking about simply species. What do I mean by that? A dog is a subspecies of wolf. So we're not talking about the difference between having every German Shepherd, Saint Bernard, Poodle, and so on and so forth. We're just talking about having 2 wolves together that would go on to make every single breed of dog you know in the short period of time after Noah. Not likely. But let's say it did. If that were possible, and you stack them all up on top of each other, according to Wikipedia.com, or .org, I actually think it is, there are 5,416 mammals. There are 10,234 birds. There are 8,240 reptiles. That's a total of 23,890 species, not subspecies, just species, to go on this here ark. But you need 2 of them, so that's 47,780. We'll find out later that you need more than 2 of some of them, but let's just go with that number for right now. 1.5 million cubic feet should be enough to hold all those creatures, especially if you just take babies as they suggest. Oh, I forgot. There's a lot of extinct animals that aren't in these numbers. So there's even more. But let's stay with this number. That leaves you 31.78 cubic feet each. But no room for food, no room for air, no room for anything. You can't stack them all up on top of each other. You can't fill up all that space with all those creatures. Aren't we really talking about floor space? Floor space. Standing one side by side. And now we're talking about butting them up against each other too, okay? Floor space, 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 3 stories. That is a floor area of 101,250 square feet. This is the number we need to pay attention to. You take that same 47,780 species, that leaves you 2.119 square foot each. 2 foot each. And you're still not accounting for the 7 of the all clean animals. You're still not accounting for the food for all of these animals. You're still not accounting for space to clean away the dung that is going to come from these animals, and the fact that there's one 18-inch window to breathe out of with all of these animals crapping and pissing and just stinking up the joint. Oh yeah, and you got to separate the lions and tigers from the gazelles and the, come on. How do you make sense of this? How are you going to put even babies, how are you going to put this many species onto one leaky boat and survive for the course of time that is they're going to have to survive coming up in chapter 7? It's impossible. And yet you think it's possible. And we're not even talking about subspecies here. On top of the fact that you think that all of these creatures are going to live on this boat, on this leaky ass boat with this 18-inch hole to breathe out of. On top of all that, you think that all of these species developed into the multitudes of species that we have today in less than 4,000 years. Because remember, all those generations are gone now. We've built up to Noah. So we're not talking about a 6,000-year-old Earth anymore. We're talking about a 4 or 5,000 year old Earth, and we're talking about before the time of recorded history when we had all these animals. So really, you're talking even less than that. You're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 years that all these species developed. It's not possible. It's just not possible. On top of that, like you needed more. Penguins have got to come to the same area as desert-dwelling creatures like Gila monsters. Polar bears have got to come to the same area as would scorpions. Koala bears and kangaroos have got to somehow find their way off of the island of Australia into the Middle East in order to get on the boat. With no sail, he didn't go pick them up, and he didn't drop them off. How is any of this possible? One nitwit, and I say that with confidence, told me that, oh yeah, but I agree that there was originally one continent, and then the tectonic plates shifted and created all the continents today, but it happened faster than you think it did. No, because if the flood happened and Noah lets all the animals off the ark and then they all go about their separate ways and then everything splits off, what you see today would have had to happen in the course of about 2,000 years. That much shifting of the tectonic plates would have caused so many tsunamis and floods and everything, earthquakes and everything else, that nothing would have ever survived. Simple as that. So you can't get 2 of every animal. You can't get all the animals from different regions onto the boat. Who are the freaking sons of God? Why are there giants? Is there any proof these giants ever existed? All of you who have said that the symbolism ends at Cain and Abel, afraid you got a new book you have to defend. Looking forward to seeing how you do it. Flood Part 2 coming.